Hey, this is Glenn, and today on Infants on Thrones, I sit down once again with psychotherapist Josh Neal.
That I got influenced by some Instagram influencers that said it's really good to get sunlight on your balls. And so this is
to continue a series of reflective discussions about what our ongoing experience with the Mormon faith crisis has been teaching us about our own mental health, vulnerability, authenticity, acceptance of reality, and the power that we all have to create emotional well-being through all of it.
the idea of salvation and salvation now, to me, is accurate. Once you are on a process that is the correct process for you, you're saved, in the sense that it's not the outcome that you're waiting for to get deliverance. It's the process provides the salvation already. And once engaged in the process, then you're good. And the journey will be what the journey is. You're going to encounter different setbacks, and I, as much as I want to believe like I'm trying to be as practiced in my stoicism as possible, I absolutely know there are things that I'm attached to that I would see as bad if I lost them, which is not the Stoic practice.
Now, if you find yourself on a similar journey and you're looking for someone to help you along the way, you can find Josh at Capitol Hill Therapy in Seattle, Washington, and you can find me right here at infantsonthrones@gmail.com. And if you appreciate the work that I'm doing here, please come and support the podcast on Patreon. And now, this is Infants on Thrones.
Baby steps.
You want someone to preach to?
The philosophies of men.
I like magical
You
toys.
want religion, do you?
Mingled with humor.
I don't believe in them.
There will be many willing to preach to you the philosophies of men mingled with humor.
We are evolving.
Baby steps.
You can buy anything in this world of money.
Look for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone.
All right, Josh. Welcome back. It's nice to see your beautiful smiling face here today. So here's what I've got planned for us today, and I'm springing this on you without knowing anything about it, and I hope this is going to be fun. The first conversation that you and I had, I published in mid-October, I think it was 2023, and we talked about Bob's Mormon Cred scale, and I decided to republish Bob's Mormon Cred scale, and I did that on October 30th. I know, because I just looked it up because I was trying to get the stats for it. Because Bob's Mormon Cred scale, I think it was originally created in 2014 and it had like 8,000 downloads. And I've been shocked. It's still quite popular. I get like 2 or 3 emails a day from somebody that's stumbling across this podcast, finding that and filling out Bob's Mormon Cred scale. And it's so funny to like read through the comments. But it makes me want to create something that's like more reflective of kind of where the podcast is now than where it was in 2014. And I was thinking about like a mindfulness cred score or something, or like a kind of like a be here now in the moment kind of cred skill. So that's our thing today, Josh. We're going to hammer out
The new cred scale.
the new cred scale, and what is it, whether it's a Gestalt cred scale or it's some kind of cred scale that's more current.
It makes me just think about what draws people to this kind of a thing, and using myself as an example. I want to rank as highly as possible on the Mormon Cred scale. Like, if I think about taking it, I think I want to be like, I never got to like bishop or higher, so I know I'm outranked by people that are probably taking it. I haven't taken it, but I want to take it.
Oh, you
And
never took the
I
Bob's
never-
Mormon
I-
cred scale?
I never took it. I will take it. I will do it. But I'm thinking about in-group and out-group dynamics, and I'm thinking about how people want degrees or some sense of authority or recognition. And I'm thinking about like even Boy Scouts and like tenderfoot second class, first class, star, life, eagle, like these different ranks, just
Yeah.
ranking systems actually.
Right.
I'm thinking about the draw to a system that gives you rank and credit for what you've done or been through. So, like, how much did the Mormon Church extract from me?
And like I gotta say again, I it's a tongue-in-cheek cred scale. You know, like it was born out of douchey judgment, you know, of feeling like we had more cred, like it, like
Yeah.
for some reason we were in a greater, more privileged, valuable position to be able to critique the Mormon church compared to somebody that had only been in for 2 years, you know, and
Well, there's
that's
truth to
why.
this. This is the thing. Like, you're taking it from the angle of, like, I don't know, self-depreciation, which is one of your
Well,
modes.
yeah, it was like that instinct in ourselves that is like what you were saying. Like, I want the rank, I want the validation, I want this,
Yeah,
and I want to make fun of that impulse in
right.
myself, you know. So, like,
And
that's what I
and
mean by tongue in
I
cheek.
want to join it and validate it.
Yeah,
At least I say that playfully, but I am
yeah,
serious to some degree, which is like when I was years back, I was involved in these little panels for the Penny Arcade Expo or PAX West, where it's a big gaming convention, and my friend Stacy Weber got me involved in doing these panels where we were discussing different topics in the gaming world. And I came across this idea where people who played Candy Crush on their phone wanted to call themselves gamers.
mm,
And they're comparing themselves to people that are playing like Counter-Strike, where they've been playing that game for a decade and they can literally pixel point precision headshot
yeah,
on repeat people in a way that there's a difference in skill there. There's an actual reality. And it got me thinking of like, we're actually, those really aren't the same thing. Like somebody who likes mindless entertainment versus somebody who's dedicated hours and hours and hours and hours and like some level of just hyper focus to get to the place where they can achieve something in a gaming that like 0.0001% of the population can do. I was just like, I'm on the side of the bullies now. Like,
that's
I
so
get
funny.
why they don't want to be affiliated with the people that want to be included who can't do what they do and aren't doing what they're doing.
Yeah,
So, anyway,
it's like the Christians that don't want to let Mormons into the Christian club.
I'm with them.
Yeah,
Keep
and
us
and
out.
as a
Keep us
and
out.
now I get it, but like as a Mormon growing up, I'm like, but we believe in Christ. It's in our name. Look, we're a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Of course we're Christians. Come on. And they're like, no, you're not, because you believe that the devil is the brother of
Yeah,
Jesus, and they got this whole list of reasons why you're
yeah,
not. So it is like this us
yeah.
versus them, in and out,
In
in
group,
group,
out group
out group.
dynamics, and how they're validated and what they're validating and the different angles everyone has. And honestly, like I'm kind of playing Switzerland here, but I can see every angle of this.
Yeah.
I can see the point to be made for the ones wanting to be included. I can see the points for those wanting to exclude. I can see how people set this up. And I guess what's interesting to me at the base of this is you've introduced it, and I'm just kind of here spitballing with you, is what's coming up for me is people's desire to be understood and recognized and to have some sense of just recognition for what their experience is and who and what they are, and
Yeah.
to be and wanting a desire to have that reflected accurately by others. And then we get into group dynamics. So that's kind of what just comes up offhand um, when I think about the cred scale, because what I relate to is I actually just what comes up is I would love to get as much Mormon cred as possible and lord it over anybody that thinks that they could talk Mormonism better than me.
Yeah. So what's that thing now? Like, is it still the Mormonism thing or the gamer thing or the
No.
like Christian thing? Like what's the thing that you want to compare yourself to other people to show that you're a lot better than them? Where there's like quantifiable evidence that
Yeah.
shows
Well,
superiority right here.
there's certain areas where it no longer needs rank because it's demonstrable. And
Yeah.
there's two places in my life where I would love to put on a demo of my superiority. And one One is in the gym, because
Yeah.
if you can lift that weight, you can lift that weight. And if you can't, you can't. There
Yeah.
is no rank. And in my gym is amazing. There are athletes in there that blow me away. They just inspire me. They're incredible. They are dedicated. They've worked so long to be able to do what they can do. And as a result, you see people squatting 3, 4, 500 pounds. Like I've seen that in my gym.
Hmm.
That's just insane. And then you get under the bar and you're doing what, for me, what I think is pretty reputable, which is probably, 275, 285. I got to a little bit of higher numbers, but those are about where I'm like pushing myself to my limit, somewhere around those numbers on squat. And then you see someone just throw on 500 and you're just like, there's an acknowledgement of that. So that's an area where in athletics and in music, people can do what they can do, and there's no faking it. You're just showing each other what you got. A third place that I don't even, and actually this gets to a different thing, is showing up as you are and showing what you can do is something that I treasure, and I treasure places where you can do that. One of them is this nude beach that I hang out at, and I spend a lot of time at this nude beach just healing my Mormon trauma and connecting to nature and just being with people and just getting really comfortable in my own body. And that's a place where you're just showing up and being, and there's no hiding. It's your body is your body, and you're showing what you got. There's no arguing for rank. It's like you're showing who and what your body is. And so that, and in music and in weightlifting or any athletic endeavor, you're just kind of showing up with what you got. And there's something beautiful about it where in all three of those areas, I realized like people gravitate around respecting each other for just being there. And you don't get as much of this other thing, which is trying to outrank each other. Because like last night, I was at a jazz performance, and I'm a new jazz bass guitarist. I'm extremely new to it. Everyone was so encouraging. Everyone was so supportive and kind. And I'm just there doing my best. And they're seeing what I can do and they're supporting it. And I feel that feeling at the nude beach, and I feel that feeling at the gym. And those are places where I love to show up as awesomely as I can.
So, wow, there's a lot. I don't know if we're ever going to get to creating this cred scale now, because
I
it's
think
like,
our
what are you
cred
going to get
scale
the
is going
cred
to be
in?
send a picture of your naked body in, and we'll have AI rate it.
Yeah, that doesn't sound appealing to me whatsoever. Not at all.
Hold
But
on, I gotta open my window. I'm getting hot as hell in here. The sun's shining in.
all right.
So there's a lot. A lot just came up.
Yeah, of those three areas, like I don't spend any time in the gym, never really have. And so that intimidates me.
Mm-hmm.
Nude beach, sorry, no, not interested. That like scares the shit out of me. Music, nice, I like it, but I would feel really uncomfortable doing what you did, surrounding yourself with people that are like much better than you and trying to keep up and,
Yep.
doing your best with it.
Yeah,
And I
for our
admire you for
listeners,
all three of those things.
well, for our listeners, Glenn and I discussed that all these jazz musicians, just for context, they're really more advanced than me. They're very good, and I'm pushing myself at my limit to develop to be able to hang with them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. So I was just noticing my own reaction as
Yeah,
you were describing each one of
yeah,
those things,
yeah,
and thinking, boy, I admire that you're able to go to a nude beach and just be very accepting of yourself and of everybody else that you're seeing there.
yeah,
I think I would be so comparing myself to others, feeling inadequate in so many ways that
yeah.
I wouldn't be able to enjoy myself at all. And that is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because it's this set of programs that I'm carrying around where I
Yeah.
can't help but compare myself to others. I can't help but do all this judging.
Right, right.
And, like we've talked in our previous conversations about this goal of tranquility and
Hmm.
being self-regulating in the moment. So like if
Hmm.
I said, okay, I'm going to get over, I'm going to do some exposure therapy at a
Literally.
nude beach.
Yeah, no, it's like literal exposure therapy.
Right.
That's so funny.
And I just I don't know that that would be good for anybody. But what would that experience be like? And so it made me wonder what was it like for you? Like maybe you're not quite wired the way that I am, but when you first went to a nude beach, did you find it uncomfortable? Were you like comparing yourself, doing those things that I think that I would be doing there? And did you find that over time that went away, or did you have to like develop a certain degree of acceptance before you even went and tried this thing or any of these things that you're talking about? Because for me, my own proclivity to judge and uh, ridicule uh, keeps me from going and from entering those areas. And I think
Yeah,
has for a lot of times in my life, places I just won't go and do things because of these insecurities I'm lugging around.
right. Well, I'm actually thinking about your question, and trying to reflect on where I was at mentally when I first went. Like, I'm trying to think, when was the first time I went? And I'm also realizing, so during the pandemic, my whole life, one thing is I've always been very um, involved in athletics my whole life. So I actually didn't appreciate that. It didn't even occur to me that that was something that isn't standard issue for people. I kind of narcissistically just assumed other people had the relationship to their body that I have. Um, until it occurred to me that there's just people have wildly different experiences in what their relationship is to themselves and their body, and even just their sensory awareness of their body and their posture and how they feel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So people who practice yoga or athletics or whatever, they're constantly developing an observing relationship to their body that starts to change the dynamic. So first off, there are certain ways that I just am based on these things that I've always done. I was always in some sport. I never think there was one year of school where I wasn't in a sport of some kind.
What
Uh,
sports did you gravitate towards?
I did wrestling in third grade, in 10th grade, third grade, seventh grade, and 10th grade. I wrestled for many different years. Seventh grade, eighth, ninth, and 10th grade, I did football. Junior year, I did ice hockey, which was awesome. I
Hmm.
loved that. And then my senior year, I didn't play a sport, but I was lifting weights all the time with
Hmm.
my friends. I was always lifting weights. And we were always like doing it like total teenage bros, like eating protein powder like it was steroids, and
Yeah.
then pretending like that made us stronger immediately, even though it has nothing to do with it. And then just lifting until your arms were dead and you couldn't move them and like that kind of thing. So very unenlightened version of it, but yet still an expression of like that was just something we always did. Like my friends and I were always working out together. Like my whole senior year, we had this, we lived in this loft. I lived with my friend Johnny Williamson. I didn't live with my parents my senior year. And we lived in this loft together with him and his little brother. And there was a stairwell that went up to the spiral, and at the top it had like a guardrail on it. And we would get up and just do dips and just go and go and go and go and go until we couldn't go. And I was doing pull-ups and dips and sit-ups and running, and we were always running everywhere. Anyway, just always in our bodies. This is just how I grew up. I grew
Yeah.
up always physically in my body, moving, playing, swimming, biking, running, lifting, all that stuff. So that experience is something I think I really took for granted, and I didn't realize had such a big impact on how I relate to my own body. But it's
Hmm.
usually been that I'm somewhat fit for
Hmm.
my age. Like I've usually been physically fit. And during the pandemic, I started, I've done triathlons as well. I've done Olympic distant triathlons where you swim a mile, bike 25 miles and run a 10K. I've done a few of those. Um, and so during the pandemic, when all the gyms closed down, I wanted to do something to be in my body and to be exercising. And I started doing some light triathlon training, got back on the bike, was just doing some alternating biking, jogging, and swimming and stuff. And then winter came and I just didn't really get the motivation to go out. And I just thought, why don't I go back to my weightlifting? It's been so long since I've done that. And at this time, I'd already developed some sense as a yogi. Like I practice yoga as a very light practitioner, but I understand its philosophy and I'm familiar with most of the general poses. And for me, primarily what yoga is it's about presenting you a series of poses that present an opportunity of a difference between you and how you normally hold your body. And in that difference, while breathing and paying attention to breath, you allow your body to move toward the position or towards the pose, and you encounter your body in a new way through the pose. It facilitates an encounter for you to gain awareness of how your body is. And then you breathe, relax, and hold. And over time, you gain more room, agency in your body, but primarily you're developing a relationship with your body, which is knowledge of how it feels to be living in your body and being in it and breathing. And so when I when I came to this decision to start lifting weights, I only had very light weights available to me. All the gyms were closed and I didn't have heavy weight. I only had a 20-pound dumbbell set, a 15-pound dumbbell set, I think, or 10-pound, and then a 5. So it was like 20, 10, and 5. And I just looked up. Actually, I encountered this video by PewDiePie. He's a YouTuber, and he talked about his weightlifting journey. And he talked about some of the philosophy behind how he approached it. And it inspired me to do this 5-day dumbbell workout routine. Anyway, I'd started doing that and I was meditating daily and I was like taking cold showers. I was doing all these wellness things and just really trying to develop my connection to myself. And it was at that point that I got influenced by some Instagram influencers that said it's really good to get sunlight on your balls. And so this is
Okay. That just reminded me of an episode of Party Down where Steve Guttenberg gets in a hot tub nude and he goes, "The bubbles feel amazing on your balls." Anyway, okay.
So this is where the confluence of these things combine. So I'm on this wellness thing, just trying to survive COVID. I'm back lifting and I'm feeling great, by the way, because I'm applying a yoga mindset, which is the weights represent an opportunity for me to encounter a difference through a movement with resistance on that movement that's meant to provide an opportunity to become more connected to my body, to dissolve time and self, and just bring myself to a meditative sensation. So that's how I was lifting. I was lifting from that mindset. I wasn't having negativity or a bad ethos. I was having a very good ethos. I also,
You
at
were
that
in
time,
pursuit of your own personal health.
and establishing a more enlightened connection to my being through these
Doing things that you enjoyed,
doing things
like
I
you
enjoyed.
embodied, it felt
Yep,
good.
yep. And it
Yeah.
felt incredible because the thing I realized is by having the very light weight that I had,
Yeah.
I could only focus on form and I couldn't commit bad habits like ego lifting or doing ridiculous things that I maybe might have done in the past. And the resulting sensations in my body after these light workouts was like I was high. I was just like,
Mm.
and I was like, wow, I actually love this. This is something that I trained myself to love. And I would like write stuff on my hands every time to motivate myself. And like I would journal and I would write crazy stuff in these journals while I was lifting. And I also was periodically smoking a lot of weed while I was lifting at times. So some of these were like really high and I was having like kind of profound moments of self-discovery and also healing moments. And anyway, I was doing all this stuff. There's just so much that went up to the point where I was finally willing to go just do what I did to be naked at this beach. But um, the influencers got me and they were talking about beef liver and sunlight on your balls and going more to like an ancestral diet, which I totally bought into and still kind of do.
Do you take
Um,
those ancestral supplements? It's like the beef liver and the heart
yeah, I'm
organ.
eating the beef
Do you?
liver. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't know if it's making a difference, but it's not hurting. And anyway, I'm 39 and I feel like I put on more muscle mass than some 20-year-olds. So it's doing something.
Yeah.
Like um, it's having an impact on some way. But I also drink spring water.
Yeah.
I try to breathe through my nose exclusively.
Mm.
Anyway, I just went down the whole rabbit hole, and part of it was that. And so my main motivation really was just to get sunlight on my balls. That's all I wanted. And so I knew there was this. I knew there
I
was
now
this.
I can't I'm sorry. We've been talking about creating our own podcast, right? And
Right.
like looking for names. And
Right.
I can't help but now thinking about sunlight on the balls. Like every time you're saying that now. Oh my gosh. Pardon my that 14-year-old arrested development part of myself that still laughs every time I hear the word balls.
It's hilarious. I
It's
think it's
funny.
funny. I like that. I like that part of you.
Yeah,
Um,
it shocks me because you'll just be
yeah.
talking, and there's the sunlight on my balls. Uh-huh.
It should be the name of this episode.
It
Um,
might be
yeah.
sunlight
Uh,
on my balls and stuff. It's,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, so anyway, I think I started to meditate in front of my window naked, and that was where I started. But then I found out that vitamin D doesn't actually travel through glass. So I was like, well, I have to actually go outside and do this and test it out and see, if this improves my health and wellness or whatever, and just getting sunlight in general. And I was also doing the whole like cutting out seed oil. So I mean, this is like a confession of my getting influenced by the algorithm, but funny enough, like I'm pleased with the influence because
sure.
there are things I've tried, and my method is I'll try anything twice. And I'll taste it, and if I don't like it, I'll spit it out. If I do like it, I'll get more. So I like to experiment and not speculate. So that's kind of how I think I have some kind of eject button from things that are snake oil, is if I really feel they're doing nothing, I don't do it anymore.
Hmm.
Um, and so I was feeling like it actually was doing something interesting that I liked to get sun on my balls. Like I felt like I did actually get some benefit from it. And then I just wanted to go do it outside. And so I wish I could remember the first time, but what you need to understand is there's been a huge journey of self-relating and healing that preceded my willingness to go do something like this. And in addition to that, my body was rather fit at the time, even more fit than I am now. Like I had very, very little body fat, and some would say I was kind of jacked at the time.
Hmm.
So that I think made it even more supportive and easy for me to not be self-critical because I just felt really good and comfortable with my body in that
Yeah.
way. And and so I think I just went down there, and I think I was, yeah, the first year I did it, I was just doing flash. Like I would go get 15 minutes naked and leave this beach. And I would just find a spot pretty much by myself away from people. And I just tried to do it daily, just get that sunlight that I could. And there was some stuff going on there, and there was some partying, and I would see people, and like it's a beach where there's a lot of people in the queer community, LGBTQIA plus whatever, that are all there, and so there's a lot of people that are really there trying to mend their relationship to their body and feel comfortable around other people because of different experiences that people have had. A lot of the people that are there are trans, and they get I've heard them share their stories. Recently, they tried to build a park at our nude beach, or a playground, and tons of people came and spoke and shared how the beach had really restored their connection to their body and been one of the only places that they feel safe in their body. A lot of trans people were talking about that. But anyway, for me, it was just like I was just kind of on the periphery for that first year. And so I got this exposure to it over time. And I think at first I was really anxious and nervous about being naked. Despite everything I've said up to this, I still had resistance to it because it's just such a weird thing to do. And then the second year I started much earlier because I wanted to get back into the sunlight as soon as possible. So it was probably February or March. I would just go down there and just be alone, completely alone there. And that was great because I could be naked there, but I was the only one doing it because there was sunlight, but it was cold as hell. So I would just have like a puffy jacket on. I would just be laying on that. And then in the early season, there was only a handful of people. There was like 3 or 4 people that I would encounter, but I became friends with them. I became friends with them because we could just sit there and talk. And then the summer kind of started to hit, and all of a sudden, like, just I would just lay there and just be there. And all of these people slowly started kind of organizing around me. And I realized the nudity is a bridge. It creates intimacy because everyone's being vulnerable. Everyone's here in this very vulnerable position with each other, and it creates kind of an equanimity. It creates kind of a cohesion and we're all in this thing together, and we're all here in our bodies, and they're all different. And I'm a pretty average guy in the pants, and there's a lot of dudes down there that come down there with huge dicks because they're more comfortable because they have a huge dick to be naked than guys who are more average. Um, but it even that comparison of like worrying about like dick size or looking at that starts to just melt away, and it becomes more about just being with each other. And I started to just develop all these friends and all these people, and I created this like really important community for me is just these people. And I almost think like when you're one of the guys down there who doesn't have a huge shower, you're almost more respected because there's more confidence required to go down and be that guy, which is me. And so, yeah, I think that was kind of how it happened. And pretty soon I just became extremely comfortable with my body, and I became extremely comfortable with being naked and extremely connected and happy to be around other people without really any much more self-consciousness. And I think as a result, it just developed more and more confidence in the fact that we're all people and we're all humans and we all have these bodies, and they're all kind of hilarious and funny and unique in their own ways. And yeah, it was just a really powerful place. And it's been a powerful place. And it was one of the first places that there's been 2 places where I've managed to get real quality community out of Seattle, or maybe 3, but is this nude beach, and then the gym, and then my Gestalt therapy training community. I've made some really good friends there. And again, that the therapy training is also a place where when it's at its best, people are fully revealing and showing up and being themselves. And I guess that's kind of the core to where I've ended up in my thinking about this stuff.
Yeah. It seems like vulnerability is kind of a key element in what you've been talking about there. And so to kind of go back to what kicked all of it off, you were talking about the areas of your life that you would want to be able to show superiority in. And so would you say that your ability to be vulnerable, to show up and be authentic, is one of the things that you've worked on, like your squats?
Yeah. Yeah, it to me it maybe is one of my highest values as a person. It's one of the things that I crave in my relationships with others, and it's actually becoming mandatory for me. Like,
Mm.
I won't maintain a relationship with someone beyond something very surface, which is fine. Life requires that, to have surface connections where you can treat people with dignity, respect, and kindness. But I don't wish to bring them into my inner circle. The kind of the ability to at least have some level of awareness to start showing up with authenticity and being yourself is what I really organize around, and what I aim to include in my life as much as possible is people that are able to do that, so that I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells or hiding or being inauthentic to myself. And I think, tying this back remotely to infants on thrones and Mormonism, is I just spent too much time sacrificing myself for belonging in Mormonism to be able to tolerate really doing that much anymore in my life to any degree more than I have to. It's why I work for myself. It's why I uh, go to nude beaches and I do things that are where people are showing up doing what they can and being who they are. So for a person squatting, you know, and actually, just to bring this back to that is I see people squatting no weight at all, hardly. And I also have respect for them because they're in their process showing up, being authentic, doing what they can do. And all of us are along that journey. So it's not like how liberated are you as much as it's are you showing up and being real as much as you're able? And are you tracking and observing and trying to connect? And that's the thing that for me is what I am attempting to surround myself with is people doing that. Musicians, athletes, nudists, Gestalt therapists, doesn't matter. What I care about is, or what I'm drawn to the most is people who are real motherfuckers, who aren't fucking faking it, who are alive and real and being who they are. And that's, oh, comedy is another area where I'm massively drawn to comedy because I feel it's one of the areas where people are sacrificing sacred cows in the service of being able to be who and whatever they want. And the only goal is to say what's funny, not what's right. And I respect the hell out of that. I like it when people are willing to do whatever it takes to make the joke and be funny instead of trying to be righteous or virtue signal or get in-group status through, the right opinions. It's so much more badass when people are just showing up and saying the horrible, ridiculous thoughts that they have, that we all have. That's the humanity in it.
So you're talking about authenticity. You're talking about your ability to respect people that just show up by being real. They're not pretentious. They're not fake.
And they can be scared or shy because that's real too. I want to
Yeah.
be clear. It's not just people who have this highly developed sense of self and can say everything and be totally aware. It's like maybe all you can do is what I did last night after our performance. My teacher wanted me to try to play a jazz standard I didn't know. And I got up and I played root notes very simply. And that's all I could really do, jamming with these other people. And everyone loved it because I was doing what I could to the best of my ability to be there. And that's what they respect and they welcomed me in on. So I guess it's being being you wherever you are and growing that, but not yeah, and I guess there's some part of this. It's like maybe where someone's at is playing some game they're stuck in and they're bottlenecked at how aware they are so that they can have more options. And I guess that's true. But I
Yeah.
guess
Because,
what
well,
I say to them is, I wish you well on your journey. I don't have a sense that you're bad or I need to degrade you or judge you, but I'm doing something else here. And there's other people that can do what I like to do. And I'd rather hang out and prioritize them for
so
now.
tell me about this journey that you're making reference to. And let's frame it in your own life, the journey from Mormonism through Mormonism to where you are right now. What are the obstacles that you had? What are the obstacles to earlier Josh that wasn't as fill in the blank enlightened, whatever word you want to use,
Yeah, I
as
don't
you
think
are
I've used
now?
enlightened, but I definitely am more integrated um,
Integrated. What
with
do you
the
mean? Tell me
parts.
what you mean by integrated.
Well, I'm more able to tolerate and acknowledge my own shadow, like my own propensity for things that aren't necessarily um, what we think about when we think about what people generally like to organize around their identity. Like, for example, my own cowardice, my own um, my own moments of betrayal to myself when I wanted to do something different than I did, my own fears, my own insecurities, um my own jealousies and pettiness and my um all those things that are part of the human experience that normally previously I wouldn't have been able to feel tolerant of. I've developed enough of a self relationship and an ability to be responsible for myself that I'm able to manage those experiences better than I was before. And I'm able to acknowledge that those are part of my experience. that I'm not just trying to be righteous all the time, but I'm aware that I'm I feel shame and humiliation and insecurity and pettiness and jealousy and um, I feel self-doubt, and that's what allows me the integrating and connecting and being able to bear and tolerate who I am. One thing that was extremely difficult for me to come to terms with, but it was so healing for me, was to acknowledge how much there is a part of me that wants my dad's approval
Mhm.
and I want his love and I want him to be proud of me. And I've been so hurt by him and so misunderstood by him that even being able to acknowledge that I still want his approval and love, it's like I feel disgusted by that part of me. But being able to love that part of me and recognize and take that part of me back in was so sustaining and healing. And so that's one example of what I mean by integrating is really learning to be more observant and accepting of all of the different parts of me, which as a result allow me to show up more as I am without being reactive to what emerges within me. Like I'll think of demented thoughts that might be funny that I would want to say that would be a joke, or I might have an impulse to do something, but I don't have to do it, or I have anger and I have, just all those things. And so it's
Well, hey,
those, yeah,
yeah,
go
let
ahead.
me, but yeah, give me a spot here where I can jump in. Finish up your thought because I got a couple of questions for you.
Basically, what allowed me to be more where I am is more confronting the total reality of my life experience
Yeah,
and being able to support myself to be in relationship with it without reacting or trying to make myself different. So I do want my dad's love. I do want him to be proud of me. There's a part of me that desperately wants to feel safe and loved by him. And there's a lot of experience trying to get that and it backfiring horribly, and then a massive result of trying to erase that part of me or hating that part of me. And being able to acknowledge all of those things has let me be more who I am in a way that allows me to show up because I can be more responsible and acknowledging of the total ability of seeing myself as I am and forgiving and learning to reorient around whatever my experience is. That's what's supported my development to show up and be authentic and real with people,
yeah.
is doing that self work.
So I want to restate what I think I'm hearing because you're talking about integration, which I love integration as a concept, the way that
Yeah.
I understand it. You're you're looking at as many parts of yourself as you're aware of, and you're accepting and you're tolerant. And it doesn't mean that you like all of these parts, because, for example, there's this part of you that wants validation from your dad, and there's the part of you that hates the part of you that wants that, and there's the part of you that feels pain that you don't have it, and from misunderstanding. And if you focused only on those parts, you might think, I need to heal this, I need to erase this, I need to get rid of either the desire, like I don't need my dad's love, or I don't have. But that's not what you're saying. You're saying, I'm
Mhm.
not trying to change these things that I don't like. I'm accepting that they're there and they're a part of all of this thing. And it's not like I'm thinking, I need this to go away in order to have tranquility. It's, I'm going to have tranquility because this is how things are. And I'm accepting that completely. And so integration isn't necessarily like eliminating or changing the things that you don't like. That
Right.
might be a part of like a process of growth that happens, but
Right.
you are, in being integrated, you're accepting the parts of you that otherwise you would say, oh, no, I don't, it doesn't matter to me what my dad thinks about me. No, it shouldn't, no, it shouldn't, so it doesn't, and you're
Yeah.
in denial about that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So maybe the scale that we're creating here, without really like directly creating it, is the integration scale.
How much
Oh,
can you tolerate of who you are?
how I mean, it would be really hard to do an integration skill. Like, how aware are you of the things you're unaware of?
Yeah, yeah. See, that's the trick. That's why I have a job, you know. Um, yeah, there's things that just happen that there's no other word for it other than grace, because the thing I shared about my dad, there were so many different people at different times that have just loved me when I was annoying, when I was obnoxious, when I was needy, when I was whatever, as a young kid. And there's been so many things that just happen to be there. And it makes sense to me, phrases like, by the grace of God go I. And I know it could have been a different thing, and I could have been any different iteration of me if there were less of these moments of grace that came into my life where things gave me what I needed to get something functioning better than it would have been if I hadn't had those moments of love come into my life. And then my own process in relating to them and using them to develop in a healthier way, some kind of gravity or instinct or divinity within that used them and took advantage of them. And the moment when I had that realization and I was finally able to confront and accept how much I ached and there's like this small little boy that is inside that just wants my dad to love him, that wants my father's love and wants him to be so admiring and proud of me. There's a part of me that aches for that. And I was just high out of my mind biking around Lake Washington and around Mercer Island specifically. And I was coming home and I just sat on off of my bike and I sat down and ugly cried for like 15 minutes. And I acknowledged this part of me that I had just fucking completely rejected, that I would never acknowledge. I would never let myself want his approval because I was so angry at him, or I
Right.
was so
Yeah.
fucking pissed off about how much hurt has happened between my attempts to get him to be different than he is and love me in the way that I need and give me any of the things that he never gave me or was never able to give me. And that moment was not something I premeditated or even knew would happen. It happened because my brain fired off in some way with collaborating with weed plus working out plus all of the mystical things that happened in my life previous to this that gave me enough support to slip into that thought tunnel that went down into that. And therapy that I've had and therapists that have helped me do inner child work that kind of gave me some modeling for how to think about myself in this way, which I don't believe in, but I also believe as a tool is a useful tool and creative method for exploring yourself. And it basically helped me see this little Josh that just wanted to be loved and that I had ignored and pushed away and hidden from. And so seeing that he was there and then seeing my reaction to that part of me and the disgust and shame and protectiveness that I have that had kind of encapsulated around me, that I don't need him for anything or whatever, like all those walls came down and I just was like, I see you, dude. I really see you. And I acknowledge the humiliation, the shame, the disgust, and the hurt and the longing and the desire to just be
Yeah.
fully loved by your dad in this safe, comfortable way that you've very rarely, if ever, been able to get. And that was a huge pivotal moment of being able to observe, take in, and be responsible and loving to all the different parts of me that are in there. And that's what I think about of like integration.
Yeah.
And there's many different areas of my life where I've done different pieces of work for myself, and I've been witnessed by others, and I've had Gestalt therapy group trainings which facilitated things to happen in a larger group setting, a group kind of therapy experience that just kind of brought me to more places of healing and wellness and support. So for years I've had different things kind of providing. Yeah, it's like I think of the parable of the sower, which is all the seeds keep getting thrown, and some begin and get choked up, and some get eaten by birds, and some fall into unfertile land, and some blossom and grow fruit, and some blossom and it's like 1,000-fold. And so it's like all these little graces in my life and things I've done and ways I've related and between the two. And then there's the moments where everything clicks and it's just like, whoosh, and then the fruits come. So that's kind of been my experience of it.
Did you freeze? Oh no, you just paused.
Yeah, just done. I was just thinking about my dad, thinking about his I was thinking about where am I at, you know? I think what I learned from that was that there's the ability to take responsibility for my needs and love myself in a way that I wanted him to love me through being responsible and caring and forgiving and kind to myself. That's let me first take the responsibility of loving myself through action and service to myself, which has resulted in me learning to like myself. And as a result of liking myself, I've come to actually respect myself.
Yeah.
And that's why I can go to a nude beach, because I like me a lot. I don't really care as much what other people fucking think.
Right. Yeah.
I'm more worried about whether I like them
and
than
this
if they like me.
and this goal of integration and the goal of tranquility that you have through your Stoic ethos
Yeah.
are really compatible. And if you're unable to recognize and accept these parts of yourself, you're not fully integrated.
Yeah, and I don't know if anyone has ever fully integrated. I think
Right.
we're always integrating and different things can
Yes.
happen at different times. And so it's more about peace in the journey where you are. And this stuff comes, Christianity, there's so many things that pop up to me that I actually just I reflect on. I'm like, Jesus was so cool. Because the idea of salvation and salvation now to me is accurate. Once you are on a process that is the correct process for you, you're saved in the sense that it's not the outcome that you're waiting for to get deliverance. It's the process provides the salvation already. And once engaged in the process, then you're good. And the journey will be what the journey is. You're going to encounter different setbacks, and I, as much as I want to believe like I'm trying to be as practiced in my stoicism as possible, I absolutely know there are things that I'm attached to that I would see as bad if I lost them, which is not the Stoic practice, but it's the folly of the flesh. And I have to work to deal with those. And then I'm a practicing Stoic by working to deal with them. I'm so much enjoying my current relationship with my girlfriend. It's been so absolutely just, I don't know. I don't even know how to put it into words. It's perfect for me. It's so fucking perfect for me. And it's one of the things I think of as one of just a grace and just a beautiful divine grace that it's in my life doing what it's doing for me. And I'm highly attached to it.
Yeah.
The idea that if it were lost, I would be okay is not something I can really function with. I don't believe that. That's not how I feel.
Yeah.
So then it's about practicing that and realizing like every library book can be returned, and I'm loving this book a lot. And if it comes to be returned sooner than I want, then I'll deal with that then. But for the moment, I have it, and so I'm enjoying it. And I guess that's how I'm practicing it.
Nice. So to wrap up today, Josh, what do you think of the idea of actually creating a scale like the Mormon Cred scale, but something that is more along the lines of what we've talked about here, focusing on integration, or not? Is that something that has any appeal to you?
Well,
Looking
I
at the
think we
expression on your face.
Yeah, I probably looked like I was in pain. It's like I just think like to create a sophisticated tool like that would be an enormous undertaking from just a psychological perspective, from like my
Yes.
background in psychology and psychotherapy. To do something like that would be, well, first off, just very reductionistic to the whole project, and maybe that's the point. But it also just would be,
The point is engagement with listeners to stimulate their minds
well, then we
and
could
to
probably come up with
encourage
something.
self reflection and self discovery.
Yeah, like how much are you okay with if you shit your pants? Like, how would that be for you?
Yeah, right.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, like how much shame do you think you'd feel versus none? You
Yeah.
know? Um, there's probably a way to tongue in cheek do it that's funny, but I kind of like it having its edge in pomposity, which is like basically seeing, like almost like an enlightened hippie guru scale, which is like this modern kind of
Yes.
spirituality
Yeah.
that's coming. That to me would be hilarious and
Right.
funny
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's almost like playing with that. There's egoism in this like spiritual realm of like people that are
Yeah.
all doing their little
Almost like
spiritual
doing it tongue in
journeys.
cheek.
How much ayahuasca have you done? That would be funny. Like, so
Yeah.
what I'm more on is like what I would want to develop with you is basically like a hippie,
Yeah.
enlightened,
Yeah.
new age, Gen Z, millennial healing journey person. Like, and that to me could be funny and just let people rank themselves
Is
on
it the
like,
woke cred scale?
it probably isn't woke in my mind because that's a different one, but that also could be interesting, but it would be
See,
more,
we need to have this conversation at some point because I think woke
yeah.
means something a little different to you than it means to me. And I don't
Yes,
know
yes, yes,
where
it
we're at
does.
on that,
It
but
does.
yeah.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. It means very different things. And probably to our listeners, there's probably lots of different relationships to that word.
Yeah.
Um, but what's funny to me, which is cropping up in the world, which mirrors Mormonism more, is some of these people that are in their, like in the realm of the stuff that I even am into, but they're true believers of it.
Mm.
And so getting like shamanic cred scale, like how many divine spirit guides have you encountered?
Right.
How much ayahuasca have you done?
Or
Uh
psilocybin or
how
ketamine
how
or yeah.
how many times have you gone to Costa Rica and done a cacao ceremony? Like there's so many things I could think of that would just be funny to do tongue in cheek about, like the modern new age hippie vibe that's happening around the like retreat world and drugs and uh yeah.
See, but
Anyway,
and I love that stuff. I freaking love it.
I
And I
love
want
it
to
too.
skewer it too. Like
Yeah.
the oh, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, but it's one of my favorite. Oh, it's why at the beginning of Infants on Thrones, the little introduction, there's that Alan Watts quote that says, "I like magical toys. I don't believe in them." That's I just love all these things.
Yeah.
Crystals and pulling cards and astrology and just all of these different languages and modes of expressing. It's like a Rorschach ink blot that's a kaleidoscope made up of all of these different ways of symbolizing reality that, like, how do you integrate all of those to be like, I can accept all of these different ways that people are trying to understand something that is so uh just impossible to understand, and all we're really ever doing is defining the limitations of our ability to perceive things.
Right. And there's this like thing that we're talking about too, which is like ego and
Yeah.
and and authenticity and the
Oh, it would be funny
desire.
to like have a
Yeah.
cred scale of how far away, like, have you shed your ego.
I want like a gym bro one, which is how much money did you spend on creatine last year?
Mm.
How many days did you miss going to the gym that you planned on going? How many PRs have you had in your life on what's your bench press? Like there's funny things you could do for like a gym bro cred scale. Like how much of a gym
Oh, you
bro
want
are
to do it?
you?
Oh, I didn't hear that part. The gym
No, no,
bro
I'm
cred
just
scale you want to
introducing
do.
this
Yeah.
now. I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
introducing it. I just brought
Yeah.
it up, but like that would be, there's a lot of hilarious like actual things you could ask about it. Like,
Yeah.
what's your measured circumference of your bicep? uh, how much do you deadlift? I'm just trying to think like cred scales that would just be funny.
That's pretty niche to people that live in that world, though. Like that wouldn't do
Well,
anything for me.
so is Mormonism, but
Yeah, true.
it's gonna be niche for whatever we pick, you know.
Yeah.
But there's musicians too, obviously. But I mean, how many times have you sunned your butthole? How many minutes of sunlight has been on your butthole? That would be a great one. I just I'm just thinking of like, yeah, ridiculous stuff. Anyway, I'm sure we can discuss more about
All right.
different cred scales, but then there's just our discussion today, which is literally about authenticity versus wanting some kind of like system to give you clout.
It's kind of like sunlight on the balls.
Yeah.
Just like as a metaphor for just like, although the butthole is probably better when you get into the.
How much sunlight have you? It probably is better in the sense that it charges up your anal chakra.
Right. And the what did you talk about last week? The anal retentiveness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that childhood development
right
stage of feeling disgusting.
Right. Which is what, we're talking about today in a way is again, but yeah, as far I think just to kind of put a bow on it for me based on our topics today and where the conversation ended up going, Glenn, is just when there's a cred scale wanted or some kind of way of doing that, it's about getting a title or status or clout. And then on the other hand, for me, in polarity to that way that people want status and recognition and honor, which is more of the ego, there's on the other hand, authenticity, integration, acceptance, and being and demonstrating self versus demanding credit for how you think about yourself. And so that's what I think is the interesting topic that we've really explored today, is this polarity of being versus being and being authentic, and ego and wanting to be given credit for some kind of ego stuff, some kind of like, call me your majesty because this or whatever, or I'm a doctor, don't you know who I am kind of energy. And on the other hand is just, here's what I'm capable of doing and I'm chill with that, and this is, I don't overly identify with any of it, but it just is what I'm capable of, and other things. This is how my body is at this time in my existence, and then cred scales, which are fun. People like them, so maybe we should set up our own merit badge system and our own Boy Scout system where people can just get merit badges and then they can just have them.
I like that. I think that's an additional idea.
Yeah. So instead of a cred scale, we recreate like
no, not instead of, in addition to.
Yeah. And then they can advance to tenderfoot, second class, first class, and then ways to get external validation from a system that appraises you and gives you feedback.
Scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do it. All right, we'll get to work on that.
Put down the weapons that you use against yourself. You don't need them anymore. Lay down the weapons that you use against the world. We don't need another war. Put down the weapons that you use against yourself.
Hi, this is Hillary.
Matthew, Ryan,
Carol,
Keith,
Ashley, and I like to play bingo online while listening to Infants on Thrones.
You can comment on this episode on the website, infantsonthrones.com.
And if you really like what you hear, give the Quorum a 5-star rating and write a short review on iTunes.
I did.
Anyone for the closing prayer?
My worst crime is an inside job. Dark thoughts taking over like an inside mob. I tune into the scene between the eyes and take a breath.
Thank you for listening to Infants on Thrones.
Infants on throne.
I sit still and watch the thoughts flow past me. Never mind the future, never mind what the past be. I like to jump and let the universe catch me. Free fall, watch the beauty blow past me. I keep my pockets light, destination in sight. Keep my actions elevated to compassionate heights. I'm walking past the fight, laying down on the night. Choosing love when I pick up this night.